The bells of Erythra's high temple tolled as the sky deepened into scarlet dusk. Their echo rolled across the valley, carried on dry winds that rustled the banners lining the streets below. Thousands of Erythrans gathered in silence, heads bowed, eyes fixed on the towering spire that had always symbolized peace. Tonight, it was a monument of desperation. Inside the temple's vaulted chamber, the High Speaker stood at the altar, her pale hands trembling above the ancient transmitter. Its crystalline lattice hummed faintly, designed long ago to cast their voices into the void. For centuries, it had been used to broadcast hymns, to declare harvest festivals, to honor the changing of the stars. Now it would carry something else, pleas for survival. "Brothers, sisters," she said, her voice carrying through the hall. "The Dominion comes. Their fleet will darken our skies by the next cycle. Our soldiers are none, our weapons are none. We have lived in peace, and so we have nothing to resist them with." A ripple of unease stirred the gathered counselors. Some pressed their palms together in prayer. Others averted their gaze, unwilling to admit the truth aloud. Only one elder dared to speak. "We should yield before the slaughter begins," he said. "The Dominion takes worlds, yes, but those who bow are spared the torch." "You call slavery mercy?" another counselor snapped. "They will chain our children in the ore pits. They will strip our libraries for kindling. Better we perish free than live as chattel." Murmurs swelled, sharp with fear. The High Speaker raised her hand, quieting them. "This is not the hour for argument. We have one choice left. We send our prayer, and we trust the stars to answer." She turned to the transmitter. The chamber dimmed as energy coiled through the crystal veins. Her voice trembled, but she forced the words into the current. "To any who hear us, we are the people of Erythra. The Karath Dominion comes to claim our world. We have no defense. If there is mercy beyond our skies, if there is power that heeds the cries of the helpless, hear us. Save us." The words carried out into space, thin as smoke on the solar winds. The chamber fell silent once more. For a long moment, no one breathed. Then the elders bowed their heads, whispering prayers to deities who had never shown themselves. Outside, the city of Lyris prepared for the inevitable. Families abandoned their homes for the caves in the northern cliffs. Farmers burned their fields, unwilling to feed invaders. The streets grew empty but for processions of priests singing hymns that wavered with sorrow. Children clung to their mothers, asking the same question again and again. "Who will come?" A boy named Terrell tugged at his father's sleeve as they joined the crowd leaving the lower quarter. His wide eyes fixed on the temple spire glowing faintly in the dark. "Father, will the gods hear us?" The man looked down, unable to answer. His voice caught, and all he managed was, "We must hope." Beyond the atmosphere, hope was a fragile thing. In the cold gulf of space, the Dominion fleet advanced. Hundreds of warships slid through the void in perfect formation, their hulls jagged, scarred from countless campaigns. They carried no banners of parley, no signals of diplomacy. Their presence was declaration enough. On the bridge of the flagship Dreadmaw, Warlord Threx Karath leaned forward in his throne-like command chair. His mandibles clicked in amusement as he studied the pale sphere of Erythra on the holoscreen. "Another lamb for the slaughter," he muttered. His voice, harsh and guttural, echoed through the chamber. "They pray, I am told, as if whispers can shatter steel." One of his lieutenants chittered nervously. "The planet's defenses are non-existent. The conquest will be swift, my lord." "As it always is," Threx replied, settling back. His eyes gleamed with cruel satisfaction. "The Confederacy rots. Their weakling allies hide behind words and treaties. And now the Erythrans, farmers and hymn-singers, imagine someone will save them. They forget the lesson we teach every world." "What lesson, my lord?" "That no one comes." Laughter rippled through the command deck, cold and merciless. Back on Erythra, the High Speaker stood alone in the temple after the others had departed. The transmitter crystal had gone dark, its energy spent, but she remained, staring at it as though willing it to glow again. "Who will hear us?" she whispered, echoing the children's question. Her voice broke. For the first time in her life, she doubted. She imagined the Dominion ships drawing closer, metal leviathans crossing the gulf with implacable hunger. She imagined her people, gentle, devoted, unarmed, crushed beneath their boots. She bowed her head, not in prayer this time, but in resignation. A tremor passed through the floor beneath her feet. The crystal hummed once, faintly. She lifted her head, heart thundering. Was it a trick of memory? A phantom echo? Far above the planet, where the Dominion fleet cut through the darkness, a different signal stirred. Not the prayer. Not the hymn. Something older, harsher. A human voice. Transmission received. The chapter ends here. Erythrans in despair, the Dominion closing in, and the faintest spark of something unexpected answering across the void. The Dominion fleet broke from hyperspace in disciplined silence, hundreds of warships sliding into formation like predators circling a weakened prey. Their engines glowed a cold blue, casting fractured light across armored hulls blackened from 100 campaigns. From the bridge of the Dreadmaw, Warlord Threx Karoth regarded the planet hanging before him, a pale jewel of green fields and freshwater seas. A lamb, waiting for the butcher's blade. His mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "Transmit visual," he ordered. The holoscreen expanded, rendering the world's surface in sharp relief. Villages. Farmlands. Cities without walls. Pathetic. "Report," Threx demanded. A lieutenant bowed his angular head. No sign of planetary defenses. No orbital platforms. Their communications repeat the same broad-spectrum signal, a plea for assistance. Threx's laugh was low and cruel. Assistance. As though their neighbors dare lift a claw against us. He turned toward his officers, his heavy carapace gleaming in the bridge light. This is what the Confederacy offers now, prayers instead of armies. Another officer asked carefully, "Shall we open transmission and demand surrender?" Threx bared his serrated teeth. "No. Let them wait. Fear ripens the spirit. We descend when they are ripe with despair." His words carried the weight of doctrine. The Dominion did not merely conquer. It taught lessons. To resist was folly. To hope was delusion. To pray was emptiness. Every world they claimed reinforced the creed. And he would carve it again here. Far below, in the halls of Erythra's council, despair deepened. The High Speaker faced the circle of elders in a chamber heavy with incense. The carved walls depicted centuries of peace, farmers at harvest, scholars at study, priests in prayer. None showed soldiers. None showed war. "They are here," she said simply. Her voice was hoarse from the ritual. "Our watchers report their fleet eclipses the heavens. The Dominion waits above." The counselors shifted uncomfortably. One elder, voice brittle, spoke first. "We must yield. The Dominion allows slaves to live. Resistance will only bring fire." Another slammed his staff against the floor. "And bend our necks? Would you see our children in chains? Our knowledge plundered? Our shrines turned to ash? You would see them dead?" The first countered. The chamber erupted in sharp voices. Pacifist vows clashed with the desperate instinct to fight, though none knew how. The Erythrans had no armies to muster, no fleets to launch. Only words, and now words were failing them. The High Speaker silenced them with a raised hand. "The choice is not ours to make alone. We have prayed. Perhaps," her voice wavered, but she pressed on, "perhaps the stars have heard." "Superstition," one elder muttered. Yet even he looked toward the high windows where the heavens glimmered faintly. On the outskirts of Lyris, families abandoned their homes, caravans winding toward the cliffs. Terrell, the boy from the temple square, walked with his father along the dust road. He clutched a small wooden toy, the last possession he'd snatched before leaving. "Father," he whispered, "will they burn everything?" His father tightened his grip on the boy's hand. "If we stay, yes. But the caves will shelter us." "Will the gods send soldiers?" A pause. Then a hollow reply. "We must hope." Above them, the stars dimmed as shadows moved across the sky. Great, distant silhouettes gliding into position. Terrell stopped and stared, shivering despite the warm air. Back on the Dreadmaw, Warlord Threx leaned forward as a comms officer stiffened. Lord, long-range sensors detect new arrivals. No, 6 ships emerging at the system's edge. Threx's mandibles twitched in annoyance. Confederacy patrol? The officer shook his head. Signatures unknown. Not Confederacy design. Not Dominion. Threx's voice sharpened. Show me. The holoscreen shifted. 6 vessels slid into view, scarred, heavy-armed, angular in design. Not sleek like Confederacy craft. Not grotesque like Dominion cruisers. Functional. Brutal. Threx narrowed his eyes. Identify them. The officer hesitated. They're transponders. They carry the mark of soul. Silence fell over the bridge. A murmur rippled among the crew. One word passed through them, quiet, almost disbelieving. Humans. Threx's clawed hand tightened on the armrest. So, the predators of legend crawl from their death world to meddle in my conquest. His mandibles spread in a grin, though his eyes gleamed with calculation. Good. It has been long since I hunted prey worth the chase. The high speaker's crystal transmitter flared once more. A new signal broke through, unlike the hymns or chants of her people. A voice, rough, human, spoken in words of command rather than prayer. Erythra, this is Captain Elias Vera of the United Terran Fleet. We have received your call. Hold. Gasps rippled through the council chamber as the words translated. Elders looked at one another, stunned. They answered, one whispered. The high speaker gripped the crystal, as if afraid it might vanish. You are not gods? She asked. No, came the reply, curt but steady. We are human. We are here. Captain Elias Vera stood at the forward viewport of the Iron Resolve, hands clasped behind his back as the curve of Erythra filled the glass. The planet glowed with untouched beauty, green continents wrapped in rivers and golden plains, seas shimmering like molten silver. From orbit it looked innocent, unscarred by war. But above its skies, Dominion warships prowled, blotting out constellations. He had seen worlds like this before, peaceful societies that believed they were too small to draw notice. The Dominion taught them otherwise. Status? Elias asked without turning. His voice was low, steady, the kind of tone that drew attention without effort. 6 Terran ships accounted for, sir, Commander Idris reported. Shields primed. Rail batteries hot. Dominion fleet count. Over 200 signatures. He paused. That's not encouraging. Elias allowed himself the faintest smile. We've fought worse. The bridge crew chuckled, the sound dark but alive. Deathworlders didn't laugh to mask fear. They laughed because they recognized it, carried it, and kept moving anyway. The comms officer gestured. Transmission from Erythra again, Captain. The high speaker requests clarification. She thinks we're divine. Put her through. The temple chamber flickered into the holoscreen. The high speaker appeared, robed and weary, eyes wide with both awe and dread. Around her, counselors leaned forward, straining to hear. Are you angels? She asked, voice breaking. You came from the stars when we prayed. Elias met her gaze, unblinking. No. We're human. No wings, no halos. Just iron and blood. The room stirred in confusion. One elder spoke, voice edged with disappointment. Then you are not salvation. Elias' reply was immediate. We didn't come to save you. We came to fight. He stepped closer to the display, his expression hard. If you want peace, there will be none. If you want mercy, the Dominion has none to give. But if you want to stand, then stand with us. That's all we offer. The Erythrans whispered furiously among themselves. To them, the humans' bluntness was jarring, even cruel. Yet behind their harsh words burned something the Erythrans had never seen before, certainty. The high speaker lowered her head, as if testing the weight of his words. You mean to face them? Yes, Elias said. Because once we prayed too. No one came. That won't happen to you. On the Dreadmaw, Warlord Threx received the humans' broadcast with cold disdain. He studied the image of Elias, a predator from a death world who dared to challenge him with a handful of scarred ships. Arrogant vermin, Threx growled. Do they not see the gulf between us? Numbers alone will crush them. A lieutenant hesitated. But, my lord, humans have reputation. Their worlds are harsh. They're soldiers. Threx silenced him with a hiss. Reputation is smoke. I deal in steel. He leaned forward, claws tapping the armrest. Signal the fleet. Advance. Burn their illusions with fire. Back on the Iron Resolve, alarms chimed. Dominion signatures shifted, fleets arcing into an attack formation that spread across the orbital plane like a black tide. Here they come, Commander Idris muttered. Elias' voice cut across the bridge, clear and sharp. All ships, defensive wedge. Prioritize engines and carriers. Make them bleed to reach us. The crew moved without hesitation. This wasn't bravado, it was discipline forged in centuries of surviving worlds that tried to kill them from birth. The tactical officer whispered under her breath as she confirmed firing solutions. David against Goliath, again. Elias heard her and allowed himself a grim smile. David had a sling. We've got railguns. Meanwhile, below on Erythra, citizens poured into plazas and cliffside shelters, watching the heavens. Streaks of light marked the Dominion's slow descent, great warships eclipsing the stars. But now other shapes moved too. Terran vessels, angular and scarred, sliding between predator and prey. Terrell stood at the cave mouth beside his father. Who are they? He asked, pointing at the smaller ships holding their ground. The stars vanished beneath the storm. Hundreds of Dominion warships advanced in layered ranks, engines glowing like a tide of suns. From the Iron Resolve, the sight filled every viewport, an armada blotting out eternity itself. First wave closing to 50,000 kilometers, Commander Idris called. Captain Elias Vera didn't move. His gaze locked on the tactical map, where blue Terran icons stood like pebbles against a landslide of red. Helm, hold formation. Gunners, track carriers first. Don't waste shots on their brawlers. Break their wings, and their claws dull. Aye, sir. The bridge hummed with purpose. Fear had no time to settle, only action mattered now. The Dominion struck first. Plasma lances tore across the void, luminous arcs brighter than lightning. Shields flared blue around the Terran wedge, absorbing the torrent. The deck shuddered beneath Elias's boots. Shields at 70%. Return fire, Elias ordered. Rail batteries roared. Tungsten slugs hurled at near-light velocity punched through space, smashing into Dominion frigates with surgical brutality. One carrier erupted as its hangar detonated, vomiting flame and bodies into the void. The bridge shook with a concussive report, even across the gulf of space. Direct hit. Idris barked. One down. The crew cheered, but Elias cut it short. Save it. The storm hasn't broken yet. On the Dreadmaw, Warlord Threx watched his forward screen with simmering contempt. One Terran salvo had erased 3 of his ships. Irritating, yes. Threatening, hardly. Press them. Cripple their shields. Show these primitives that numbers are truth. His lieutenants roared their agreement, but one young officer hesitated. My lord, they fight with precision. Their weapons bite deeper than projections predicted. Threx bared his fangs. Let them bite. A worm's sting doesn't fell a beast. Back aboard the Iron Resolve, the second wave came harder. Dominion bombers streaked ahead, releasing swarms of plasma torpedoes. The void lit with fire. Point defense, now. Autocannons spun to life. Dozens of barrels spat storms of tungsten into the dark, shredding warheads in glittering blossoms. Yet some slipped through. Explosions rocked the ship. Alarms screamed. Armor breach on deck 12. Seal it. Reroute survivors. Elias's voice stayed level, but his grip on the railing whitened. "We hold this line. No collapse. Not 1 meter back." A junior officer swallowed hard, glancing at him. "Captain, what if they break us?" Elias met her eyes, steady as steel. "Then we break them first." Across orbit, Terran ships fought like cornered predators. The Vigilant rammed a Dominion cruiser broadside, point-blank railguns chewing its spine apart before detonating both reactors in a single incandescent blast. The Courage's Dawn limped with half its hull aflame, but still spewed fire at every target in reach. The Erythrans below could see it all. To them, the night sky had become a battlefield, streaks of burning metal carving trails across the firmament. Terrell clutched his father's arm as the heavens tore open. "They're fighting for us," he whispered, almost unable to believe it. His father's voice cracked. "No, they're fighting because that is what they are." Back in orbit, Elias seized a fleeting moment. "Idris, Vector 3 degrees port. Line up their flagship." Idris's head snapped up. "The Dreadmaw?" "Sir, she's shielded by an entire phalanx." "That's why we cut the phalanx." Elias's tone was iron. "Concentrate fire. Punch through. Kill the head, the body dies." "All ships, mark target Dreadmaw," Idris relayed. The wedge pivoted as one, rail batteries aligning like spears aimed at a single heart. Threx sneered as the Terrans turned toward him. "They seek the wolf among the pack. Fools. Close ranks. Protect me." His escorts obeyed, shifting to block the Terran fusillade. But precision was humanity's gift. "Fire!" Elias commanded. The void howled. Rail slugs ripped through Dominion frigates, tearing through shields, detonating reactors. Escorts vanished in flashes of silent flame. A path opened. The Dreadmaw loomed unguarded, its armored flanks bristling with guns. "Hit her again." Every Terran ship poured fire into the flagship. Plates buckled. Energy arcs crackled along her hull. Still, she endured. The iron resolve bucked as plasma seared across its bow. Sparks cascaded from overhead panels. Forward shields collapsing. "Keep firing," Elias barked. He staggered as another impact hammered the hull. Smoke stung the air, acrid and sharp. "Sir, Vigilant is gone," Idris shouted. Elias shut his eyes for half a second, then reopened them, cold and merciless. "She bought us this shot. Don't waste it." On the Dreadmaw, Threx rose from his throne, bellowing over the roar of failing systems. "More power. Crush them." But his crew scrambled in chaos. Panels burst, conduits hissed steam, and alarms screeched. One lieutenant cried out, "Shields down. Reactor breach imminent." Threx's claws dug into the railing. "Impossible. They are few. They are weak." Yet the truth blazed outside his viewport. Humans, bloodied but unbroken, had carved his warship to the bone. "Captain, their reactors destabilizing," Idris reported, sweat streaming down his face. Elias' jaw clenched. "Finish it. All batteries, fire." The final volley struck true. The Dreadmaw split apart, a wound of molten fire bursting across its hull. The flagship exploded in a sun-bright bloom, shockwaves scattering debris into the void. For a breathless moment, silence reigned. Then Dominion comms fractured, fleets breaking formation in disarray. Without their warlord, cohesion bled away. "They're retreating," the tactical officer cried. Elias exhaled slowly, chest heaving. "Not yet. Hound them until they flee beyond range. Make sure they remember what it costs to come here." On the surface, the Erythrans saw the explosion. Gasps filled the plazas, temples, and mountainsides as the brightest star in their sky went out. The high speaker fell to her knees, tears streaming. "They are no angels," she whispered. "They are wrath itself." And the people echoed her words. Hours later, aboard the battered Iron Resolve, the crew moved like ghosts among sparking consoles and scarred bulkheads. Dozens were dead, hundreds wounded. But the ship still lived, and Erythra still breathed free air. The wreckage of war drifted like a shroud around Erythra. Broken Dominion hulls tumbled silently, their twisted frames reflecting the pale light of the system's star. Among them moved battered Terran vessels, engines flickering, hulls scarred black. Victory had been won, but its price clung to every breath aboard the survivors. On the Iron Resolve, silence weighed on the crew. The bridge smelled of burnt wiring and antiseptic, the air scrubbers struggling against smoke and blood. Engineers patched holes with scavenged plating while medics carried stretchers past twisted bulkheads. No one celebrated. They endured. Commander Idris stood beside Captain Elias, both men watching the fractured fleet regroup. Idris's voice was low, hoarse from shouting orders through hours of chaos. Reports confirm it. Dominion fleet scattered, their flagship destroyed. Erythra is safe, at least for now. Elias didn't answer at once. His gaze lingered on the casualty list, scrolling across a cracked display. Names of the dead, too many to count. At last he said, "Safe is temporary. But temporary matters." On the planet's surface, the Erythrans gathered in the plazas, stunned by what had unfolded in the heavens. Ash fell like gray snow, remnants of ships that had burned in orbit. To them, the sky itself seemed scarred. The High Speaker addressed her people with a trembling voice. "We witnessed fire that was not divine, yet greater than any storm we have known. The humans did not descend as saviors. They stood as walls, bleeding so we might live. We owe them more than worship, we owe them remembrance." Terrell, still gripping his father's hand, whispered, "They burned the sky for us." His father only nodded, unable to speak. Aboard the Terran flagship, survivors assembled in the hangar bay, where damaged dropships rested like wounded beasts. The memorial was brief. There was no time for ceremony. A sealed container was placed in the center, bearing the ashes of the fallen. Elias addressed the gathered crew. His uniform was torn, his face lined with exhaustion, but his voice carried steady. "They will say we won today. They will call it a victory. But every name on this list carved that victory in blood. Remember them. Speak of them. Carry their weight with you, because the Dominion will return, and we cannot afford to forget what it cost to stop them this once." No applause followed, only silence. It was heavier than grief, it was resolve. The next morning, a delegation of Erythrans was permitted aboard the Iron Resolve. They walked through ruined corridors, past patched hull plates and scorched walls. Where they expected triumphant warriors, they found tired men and women binding wounds and salvaging scraps. The High Speaker stopped before Elias, who looked more soldier than captain, his uniform stained with grease and blood. She bowed, not in reverence, but in respect. "You defended us with the fury of gods, yet here I see only mortals." Elias studied her, expression unreadable. "Mortals bleed. That's why we fight so hard to keep others from bleeding with us." Her voice wavered. "Why? We are not your kin, not your home. Because one day it will be humanity's home. Not Erythra specifically, but every world we touch. The Dominion wants submission. We want survival. That means when someone tries to erase a voice, we stand in the way." For a long moment she said nothing, then lowered her head. "You have bound our fates together." Later, in the command chamber, Elias convened with his surviving officers. The holomap showed shattered Dominion fleets pulling back into deep space. Idris spoke first. "They'll regroup. Months, maybe a year at most. They won't forget this humiliation." "We don't need them to forget," Elias replied. "We need them to hesitate, to think twice before pressing another assault." A lieutenant leaned forward. "Sir, what about Erythra?" "We can't stay. The fleet needs repairs. Earth Command will call us back." Elias looked down at the planet's glowing surface. "Then we leave them the tools to stand when we can't." For 3 weeks, Terran engineers worked side by side with Erythran artisans. Defensive satellites were anchored in orbit, their cannons forged from repurposed Dominion wreckage. Shield generators were seated in mountain fortresses, designed to buy minutes, precious minutes, if war returned. But the most important gift was smaller, quieter. In the plazas, human instructors taught Erythrans how to operate communications relays, how to repair generators, how to wield weapons not as symbols but as tools. Terrell watched wide-eyed as a young Terran Marine showed him a compact rail rifle. "It's heavy," the boy said, trying to lift it. The Marine grinned. "Feels lighter when you're protecting someone you care about." Terrell's father frowned, uncertain. "We are not warriors. Our strength has always been in words, not weapons." The Marine's smile faded. "Words matter. But when someone comes to burn them from your throat, you'll need more than words." The father said nothing, but he took the rifle in both hands and studied it long into the night. When the fleet was finally ready to depart, the people of Erythra gathered along the mountainsides and river valleys, staring upward. The Terran ships rose slowly, their scarred hulls catching the sun. In the Iron Resolve's hangar, Elias stood with Idris, watching the last supplies loaded. Idris broke the silence. "You think they'll hold if the Dominion comes again?" Elias's eyes stayed fixed on the planet. "They'll hold because they must. Survival teaches faster than any academy." "And us? We'll be sent to another front, another desperate stand." "Until the war ends," Elias said quietly, "or until there's no one left to fight it." Idris gave a tired smile. "Hell of a life." Elias finally looked at him. "It's the only one that keeps the stars free." In the plazas below, the High Speaker raised her voice one last time as the ships dwindled into specks. "Children of Erythra, remember this night. Not as salvation, but as inheritance. The humans have shown us the cost of freedom. From this day, we bear it as our own." The crowd repeated her words, voices carrying across the valleys like a vow. As the fleet jumped into the dark, Elias remained at the viewport. The stars stretched, then snapped back into silence. For a moment he closed his eyes, hearing again the screams, the gunfire, the hollow thrum of railguns cutting through void. When he opened them, there was only darkness and the faint reflection of his own face. He whispered to no one, ashes behind, seeds ahead.